There's a few things about the Umbro Medusae 2 Elite that you need to know right off the bat. The first being that this is the first boot from Umbro to feature some kind of a knitted element, which you can very clearly see around the edges of the collar, but also the entire back half of the shoe does feature a knitted base for the structure of the upper. Two, it's not a standard low cut, which is very clear to see, something we also have never seen from Umbro up until this particular model. Three, this is a legitimately good shoe, not only by Umbro's standards. I think this is a major improvement over the original Medusa, but I really do feel like this is a legitimate top 10 high-end soccer cleat in today's market, which is saying a lot. And four, this is not from IKEA. What's going on, guys? Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the brand new Umbro Medusae 2 Elite. Now, this is a very, very impressive release by Umbro, very different from the previous Medusa aside from the sole plate and stud pattern. Essentially, everything else has been completely redesigned. And what I want to cover in this video is all the tech specs, all the performance details that you should know about if you were considering these, or even after watching this video, you may want to consider them because they are legitimately that good. And of course, we'll take a look at how they fit and feel on feet as well. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around and watch the entire video. As far as getting a pair for yourself is concerned, if you live in North America, as far as I know, these have not released anywhere as of yet. Only in Europe. I'm not sure if that will change. But anyways, if you are interested in a pair for yourself, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen, or you can click the first link down below in the description. That'll take you to the review page on my website, where you will find buy it now links for this shoe in a few different colorways that are available right now for around $200 US. So it is fairly well priced, I would say. Also, if you guys do end up enjoying this review, find it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. And also, don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed to the channel for more reviews on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. Starting off with the upper, there are elements here that remind me a lot of the Nike Tiempo Legend 7. You have a knitted aspect through pretty much the entirety of the shoe, which you can see is more so on the back half, but this actually flows through the entire inside, acting as somewhat of a liner. It's a very thin material. You can see the actual thickness here on the edges, a lot thinner than a collar you would find on, let's say, a Nike Mercurial Superfly 5 with its dynamic fit collar. This is really just a very thin extension piece, kind of reminiscent of what we've seen previously on the Adidas Ace 16.1 Prime Knit. And you can see that knitted material does flow through the middle where a tongue would normally be, tucking underneath the leather, but it's all stitched together, creating a one-piece effect when the shoe is on your feet. As far as the leather at the front is concerned, you can see the segmentation right here on the lateral side. So basically at the midfoot point, going all the way through the forefoot toe box area, and then cutting off kind of further into the midfoot on the medial side. So I would say there is a good amount of leather on this shoe. It's definitely an improvement over what we had from the original Medusa. As far as the leather itself is concerned, it is a kangaroo leather material, and the quality is decent. The thickness, I would say, is fairly average, not too thick, not too thin. It's going to provide that soft leather feel that you would expect. Definitely on par quality-wise with other shoes at the $200 price point. If I am comparing it directly to the Legend 7, just as an example, I do think that shoe does feature a slightly better quality leather upper than this does, but again, I'm not complaining in regards to what we have here in terms of overall leather quality. You're also going to notice that the leather does not have any stitching at all, a noticeable difference in comparison to the original Medusa once again, and that's because you can see the texturing underneath. It does have a TPU support cage, kind of in the form of this crisscross pattern running through the entire leather section of the shoe. So that is underneath the leather, but also on top of the knitted liner that you're gonna find through the inside of the shoe. So this does its part in terms of adding structure to the upper without adding any kind of stitching. Really, it gives you that leather-like sensation. It doesn't take away from the softness or flexibility, but when you tie the laces tight, it really does its part in terms of adding structure to the leather to where the shoe has a much more responsive feel than if it were to just have a standard kind of stitched construction, which, as we've all experienced before, if you've worn a leather shoe, they can have a sloppier sensation, especially once broken in, which you're not necessarily going to get with this type of design. It's a very modern thing that we first saw introduced a couple years ago, and more modern style leather shoes are going towards this particular design, and Umbro has done a really good job of their unique implementation of this concept in the Medusa 2 Elites. The knitted aspect through the midfoot area, more towards the back half of the shoe, as you can see, does have a lot of fused material on top. So as far as how knitted this feels on your feet, it really doesn't. It kind of just feels like a softer, but also slightly structured synthetic material. That's the best way to describe it. And the reason why they put the fused material on top is to add structure to what is a pretty dense knitted base. You're going to find that going through the back of the shoe as well, and then also on the medial side towards the rear half. It also does extend into a bit of a collar, which is pretty much just a standard low cut design with a slight extension piece. This part of the collar, where it does have the yellow and blue stripes, is elasticated. It's not super stretchy, but it is very thin. It's not something that you really feel when you're wearing the shoes. And you'll also notice, again, kind of similar to that Ace 16.1 Prime Knit, they did actually add the padding where a low cut shoe would normally end. So you can actually see where the extension piece actually starts. It's pretty much exactly that striped area. So because of this padding that they have kind of structuring the inside of the heel area as a standard low cut shoe, this doesn't feel like a mid cut shoe when you put them on. It has a very comfortable, very familiar fit and feel on feet, which is definitely a good thing in my opinion. Now you can see where the knitted part ends and the leather starts. That's not an actual seam, that's just where the leather sits on top of that knitted base, which, like I said, it's a very thin material. So this lines the entire underside of the leather as well as this internal support cage, and also fills in the middle where you do have a knitted tongue material or knitted tongue area, but it does have a lot of fuse on top. So it's not necessarily going to stretch all that much, which is interesting as a design concept, because normally when we do see a knitted material through the lacing system, it does end up being a little bit stretchy, but nonetheless, getting these on and off does not seem to be an issue, even though this does have a little bit more structure than what we're used to seeing. You can see the laces themselves do run through the middle of the shoe, and it does use a dual lace hole system, which is fairly normal for any of these one-piece designs. I like the way that they did this, so I have no issues with that whatsoever. Moving on to the heel area, like we talked about, the shoe for the most part, even though it does look kind of mid-cut, pretty much just feels like a standard low-cut design. You have an external heel counter, which we'll talk about more in just a second. Little pull tab at the back, which I do like to see on a shoe in general. Visually, I know some people don't like the way that looks, but I personally have no real issues with it. And then internally, you'll find that there is a synthetic suede lining, but it's not just straight up synthetic suede. Instead, what they've added are silicone chevron stripes, basically, that are very grippy, lining the entire heel area of the shoe, even the sides of the liner. And I guess it's a little bit difficult for me to show you guys because it is blue on blue, but you can see the shinier bits right there. They are very grippy. So when you put these on and tie the laces tight, even while you're actually sliding your foot in, it doesn't necessarily slide very easily against that back heel liner. Those silicone grips really do grip your socks, keeping your heel locked in place and giving you this very kind of connected, secure sensation in the heel area of the shoe. I'm curious to see how that's going to wear over time, but quite honestly, it does feel very durable and extremely well made, so I don't really have too many major concerns there. Plus, there is a decent amount of padding back there as well. So again, in terms of overall comfort, very comfortable out of the box, and in terms of heel slippage, given that you have the right size, it's not something that's going to be an issue whatsoever. The insole is fully removable and also fairly unextraordinary. It features a smooth mesh lining on top, single layer of this white foam that has a fairly average thickness to it, and really, it's just a soft, spongy white foam. Nothing special whatsoever. It does get the job done, but as far as top-end shoes and the insoles provided with them are concerned, like I said, this is fairly unextraordinary. The sole plate and stud pattern definitely draws a lot of influence from the Mercurial line and some of the more lightweight boots on offer from Adidas, notably the F50 Adizero, which is the first shoe that introduced the sprint frame construction in 2010. So you can see it does have an external heel counter directly attached to a sole plate, all one piece, all made from a Pebax material. Again, very similar looking to what we see from Adidas with their sprint frames that they still use today. We have something similar from Mizuno with the Morelia Neo line as well. It's not something that is uncommon in 2017 in order to create a good sole plate, but also one that keeps the weight of the shoe down, which these are actually remarkably light. So the solid heel counter, which I do like the look and the feel of overall. And then the sole plate itself, in comparison to Adidas's sprint frame, is a little bit thicker, has a little bit more firmness to it, but it does break in quite nicely. The stiffener bars through the midfoot just to add structure where you need it. And as far as the firm ground stud pattern is concerned, this whole setup is identical to what we got from the previous Medusa. No major changes here whatsoever. In the heel, you can see you have these kind of diamond-shaped bladed studs, I guess you could call them. Then you have those same style studs on the lateral side of the forefoot with these kind of Pac-Man shaped studs, which are more conical on the medial side of the shoe. Only 3 on either side, and then 1 support stud in the middle. They're a decent length overall, pretty good traction, I would say, as a whole. Nothing really overly significant, kind of similar, honestly, to what you're gonna find from Adidas with their layouts, just because it is such a similar concept. But really no complaints here, and for use on firm natural grass, it definitely will get the job done. In terms of weight, I was actually really surprised by the Medusa 2 Elite. I expected them to weigh more than they actually do, given the construction, given the materials, and just given how solid this shoe feels on feet. In a size 9 US, these guys weigh in at 7 ounces exactly, which, like I said, is very lightweight, on par with any top-end model from the big brands, lighter than most of those top-end models as well. And again, given that you're getting a lightweight construction, a kangaroo leather upper, a solid feel, a very responsive sensation from the shoe, and just a very well-made package as a whole, 7 ounces is pretty impressive from Umbro here. Aesthetically, I actually really like the design of this shoe. They kept the Umbro double diamonds logo, but put it on a little bit of an angle, more towards the rear of the shoe, and that's really the only white accent you'll find. Everything else is in IKEA blue and yellow, which, as funny as that is, this actually looks pretty good as a color combination in my opinion. I like the way that this shoe looks. The blue towards the front, this kind of dividing stripe right here in solid yellow, the Medusa branding right there on the medial side as well, and then they kept the knitted aspect more to a minimum in terms of how flashy it actually is. This is as flashy as it gets, whereas you get to see a little bit of the knitted aspect peeking through the fuse kind of cutouts through the midfoot area of the shoe, which overall I think looks quite good. Solid blue outsole with the yellow studs, and then one more white Umbro double diamond logo there underneath the heel. So overall, I'm actually a big fan of how these shoes look and this particular colorway. I think it's a nice looking package overall, but I'd be curious to hear your opinions down below in the comment section. Do you like how these look? Why or why not? All right, so as you can see, I swapped out the stock yellow laces for some yellow reflective SR4U replacement laces. Obviously it's the same color, so it's not that big of a visual difference, but you get the added reflective bits. They're also a little bit thinner and slightly shorter than the stock ones, which I think are a little bit too long. And because they're thinner, it just better suits the very modern kind of speed boot style aesthetic that they went for with this particular shoe. So if you are interested in a pair of SR4U laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. If you're interested in a pair, there'll be a little pop-up on screen, as well as a link down below in the description. So be sure to go ahead and check that out. On feet, these shoes feel really, really good. Out of the box, the comfort is awesome. The fit of the shoe in general shape is really, really impressive. It's a huge change over the previous Medusa, and whenever you go with a one-piece design for the upper, there's always worry of not getting the shape just right, but Umbro has done everything pretty much perfect on this shoe. As far as one-piece uppers go, these fit as good as just about anything else out there, even in comparison to the bigger brands. The shape kind of reminds me a little bit of what we currently have with the X17.1, but I actually prefer the fit of this shoe, both in terms of the overall shape and the way that they went about choosing the volume of the shoe through the midfoot. It just fits really close to your foot. No crunched up materials, no overlapping materials. It just feels really, really good. The leather is soft and of course will soften up as you break them in. And then of course that heel liner like I talked about with the kind of silicone grips at the heel, really, really comfortable, grips your heel very, very nicely. So slippage on the inside of the shoe is kept to a minimum. There's almost no slippage whatsoever. So in terms of the responsiveness that this will provide with the soft leather upper, it's very, very impressive. Width-wise, it's a snug fit, but I wouldn't say that they are overly tight by any means. The shape does remind me a lot of what you get from the Nike Tiempo Legend 7, which is not a bad thing whatsoever. And because the front half of the shoe is leather, it is going to stretch a little bit as you break them in. So as long as you don't have super, super wide feet, these will fit most people very comfortably. As far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing my usual size 9 US here, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair of these for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. In summary, there definitely are good options outside of the two main brands, Nike and Adidas, and I think the Umbro Medusa 2 Elite is a great example of that. If you're looking for something different, or if you're just looking for a shoe that is fairly unique in terms of what it has on offer, I really think that this is a very, very solid option for you. If you were considering this, I definitely would take a strong look at the Nike Tiempo Legend 7 as well, but these are a little bit lighter and do offer a slightly more kind of speed boot style fit and feel to them versus what's on offer from the Legend 7. So there is that to consider as well, but definitely a shoe that I would very strongly recommend. Anyways, guys, that is it for my review. If you guys are interested in a pair of these for yourself, again, you can click the little eye in the corner of the screen or the first link down below in the description. That'll take you to the review page on my website where you will find buy it now links for this shoe in a couple different colorways. If you have any questions at all regarding this shoe, leave them down below in the comments, and as always, I will get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. If you guys enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all of my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.